Welcome to Chaos2Cured podcast. You are here with Jeffrey Fried, author of Right Brain Children and the Left Brain World, which is a New York Times bestseller. Great book. And Kirk Patrick Miller. Today, we are going to jump right into a topic everyone is familiar with, guaranteed, which is fear. The reason that this is such a important topic to me is if I look at just about every decision I have ever made in life, it has been made out of fear. So for at least the last 40 plus years, I think, just in the last 2 years, I have been acting more out of self-trust and I guess believing in my own ability to do due diligence. It's fear is something that controls so much of us, from anxiety to stress to staying in a bad relationship to being unwilling to go seek help to talking to a psychiatrist. I mean, the list is endless. Jeffrey, just jump right in. What are some of your thoughts? I know, with the individuals you work with that are, I know you specialize with individuals on the spectrum. And they feel things, as you've said many times before, on multiple levels higher. So jump into the idea of fear and how it affects some of the people you've seen, how the world is kind of, I guess, forcing us to be there in that state too.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Fear is linked with anxiety. And anxiety is the primary crippling, I guess the word would be tendency for people on the spectrum. Anxiety is a killer. And anxiety implies fear. And fear is, the most of the people I work with are pretty much dominated by fear. The anxiety is awful. It's caused by the fear of something going wrong. And you got to realize, if you're on the spectrum, or if you are a visual processor who is kind of slow processing but extremely good at processing, you're going to get a lot of people who correct you, think you're not very bright because you're slow, which has nothing to do with intelligence. And everything can appear to be threatening, and everything's a surprise. And you also have to realize that this is a huge thing, that so many people who are dyslexic, autistic in particular, those two, they daydream. They're world-class daydreamers. They're wonderful at daydreaming. So what happens is, many times they're lost in a daydream. They go in and out of daydreams all the time. And they're startled. They sort of come to and realize, oh my God, I've been daydreaming for the past 5 minutes. And the startle response is terrific. I mean, terrific in terms of intensity.
Fear. Yep.
Yeah. So, they're more likely, the people I work with are more likely to be fearful than those people who are neurotypical, or those people who have ADD. People with ADD generally aren't that fearful. They're impulsive, and they're used to quick responses. And a lot of them, because of the impulsivity, don't deal with fear. And with neurotypical people, the response to fear is, it's average. They tend to be, the response is correlated with the event, not overly exaggerated. But boy, I'll tell you, my clients, fear's a killer. They tend to be afraid of everything.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to cut you off. Keep going.
No, yeah, you didn't.
So, it's, you mentioned the impulsivity, and one thing that, a lot of people always felt for me was with my impulsivity, and everybody assumed I was absolutely fearless. Now, some of that was mania, and it was truly, some of the things I did were just so impulsive and dangerous and stupid. There was an internal thing of fear there. That did not come out really until I was actually managing symptoms. And this is something, I did not expect it to take this kind of a turn, but for people out there that are getting help, and Jeffrey, I'm going to throw this back at you in a second. As you go through the process of finding a psychologist, psychiatrist, finding the right medication regimen, and then you start getting on it, it starts working, you start becoming solid. What happens is, all of a sudden, some of the things that kept me going and kept me away from fear, kept me away from stress, kept me away from thinking about anything about my future, the impulsivity, the mania, that was gone. And when that was gone, it was completely replaced by the anxiety and the OCD, and to the level of which, it was, you can look at my paintings to give people an idea of the difference. I have one when I was younger, and I was just definitely unmanaged in terms of some of my symptoms and issues. The brushstrokes are like absolutely fearless, random colors all over the place, super bright. And then the newer, like the longer the time frame goes, the more stable I get. You can tell there's more caution, like fear. And that was a weird thing for me to develop, because not only was I more stable and I was doing all the right things, but there's that fear of rolling backwards. And I don't think this falls on just the individual, but I know this affects the family too. There's an absolute terror of the individual that just got better, got out of, this is not just with mental health, this is with rehab, this is with every form, right? You see somebody get out, your biggest fear is that they fall off the wagon, or if they stop taking their medication, they discontinue their medication. Please never do that without consulting a physician. Jeffrey, what do you think about what I just said there? I know I'm wondering if you've seen that when people get things under control, that the fear actually intensifies.
Yeah, I think my reaction to what you said is, especially with people who are bipolar, they're full of fear and they get sick of it. They get tired of it. So in response, they do impulsive things to kind of prove to themselves, hey, I'm not that full of fear, or I'm going to do, it's not going to let it cripple me. And they sometimes a lot of times get into trouble with that. But they're trying to convince themselves that they're not anxious, and they are. Again, all of the senses of people who are bipolar, dyslexic, or autistic are greatly exaggerated. Fear and anxiety is greatly exaggerated. The way people deal with it is individualized. Some people don't even come out of their house. I've seen kids so paralyzed by fear that they can't leave their room. They can't go to school. They have to be homeschooled on a TV. It could be so crippling. I've seen adults who are afraid of a job, and so they take a job that's real menial and real easy because their fear is crippling. They're afraid of rejection. They're afraid of trying hard and failing. And again, everybody's going to react a little differently. Some will try a direct frontal approach. I've heard of people who are afraid of heights, scared to death of heights, who become mountain climbers to basically overcome it by direct frontal approach. It's called reaction formation. You attack what you're fearful of, but you're still fearful of it, but you're overcoming it by sheer force of will. And that's one way to deal with fear. But the anxiety will get you anyway, because you're simply repressing it, and it'll probably come out in a different form. But again, it's there. Best thing to do is to talk about it. And definitely, if you're paralyzed by anxiety and fear, you need therapy. and you're suffering from PTSD, and that's the way it should be treated. And there's lots of people who can work with that stuff, um, in a way that you're not repressing it, and that you're handling it. You do it gradually. Like, for example, or if you have a fear of going outside and getting outside of your house, try like a foot outside your house, and then the next day try 2 feet. So it's just gradually expanding your limits, but you have to deal with it, because it can really make your life a living hell and can make you crippled. And that's my take.
Oh, I love that. And it makes me, if anybody has not seen the movie What About Bob, it's with Bill Murray. It's with somebody who's definitely got some mental health issues, and it's pretty entertaining. But when you were talking about like taking little steps at a time, it's making progress. The size of the progress doesn't matter. The fear that and I think one thing I want to make very clear to health professionals. So if you're a psychiatrist, psychologist, somebody else dealing with somebody, if they have a ton of labels on them, and again, this is not about label. I'm not trying to make this about labels, but when you like, if for me, for example, when you have OCD, anxiety, ADHD, bipolar 1, those 4 things, anybody that researches a single one of those sees red flags everywhere for what their life could be. Keyword could. What we do is we define, at least, I'm sorry, what I did was I defined my life based on these ridiculous assumptions in books about what I would be able to do. Oh, you have this, so you're going to fail at jobs, you're going to fail at relationships, you're going to fail at this. Hey, guess what I did? I failed at all of them. When you're told enough times that you're going to fail at all this stuff because you have honestly a different way of seeing the world. So Dr. Denise McDermott, who we'll have on the show at some point in time, she calls it neurostyle. So everybody has their own particular style of perceiving the world. I've always liked the word. And that's kind of, it's frustrating because the entire world was centered around making me feel like I was doomed. There was no hope. There is no cure. There is no way for you to be stable. There is no treatment. There is no medication. I heard this from thousands of people, and I saw this online. I mean, everywhere you look, still to this day, they say bipolar cannot be cured. And I'm sitting here going like, okay, so it's been over 12 years now. I don't know what you call that. I mean, anybody can fake it for 6 months. They can do it for a year, maybe without an episode, but 12 years, come on. At some point, I'm not saying that what I did is going to work for every single person, but what I do believe is there are tons of answers. And one of the biggest things that got in my way on all of it was society built a world of fear around who I was. Now, you see it probably on media all the time, right? Gun violence. Oh, mental health. Oh, this. Oh, mental health. Oh, they're mental health. It is literally the scapegoat for everything that people can't try to explain. If they don't have a good legitimate reason or logical explanation, oh, mental health. He's insane. Or whatever. And I'm frustrated because the world that we have around us is built not to reward the opposite of fear. It's built to reward fear. You hop on Twitter. I dare somebody to go out and try to get followers by being nice and kind. It won't happen. It's not going to happen. And so with not only is my conditions, the world is pushing my conditions on me in a negative way with stigmas and saying I'm inept. I can't function with a gun. How dare I be able to have a gun? Not that I want one, but come on. It's not just people with mental health. It's a scapegoat, and it drives me crazy. That's part of the fear. It builds up. So I believed all of that, all of the stigmas. I believed all of the false, things that you might hear about bipolar, OCD. Yes, a lot of them are true, and they're very valid. So somebody dealing with somebody on the spectrum, yes, they have emotional explosions all the time. And yes, they are going to be absolutely brilliant at times. But, when we get down to it, we are all human. There's no reason for the world to kind of, I guess it's pushing fear sells, whether it's a horror movie.
I was just about to say,
jump into it.
Fear gets people to watch. Good news doesn't get people to watch. Fear does. So fear sells. Fear is marketable, and they're going to push it. And in a culture that is so unpredictable, or I guess the word would be chaotic, you throw a fear, a heavy fear into people, and that becomes their way of life. They walk around scared. And that's for neurotypical people. For people who are more fearful and more anxious anyway, it becomes horrible. The world becomes absolutely horrible. And there's so many people who closet themselves away from others, don't go out on dates, don't go out for social engagements because they're afraid they're going to get shot or mugged. And that's what the news feeds them. So it's real that fear in some people is just very, very deep set, but it's fueled and it's out of control. Yeah, I guess there's a pretty good chance in the United States that somebody will be a victim of gun violence, but it's still not so bad that you've got to be afraid to go to the store or to the barber shop or out to a football game. It's not that bad. However, if the media gets its way, would probably be great for business if it were.
Oh, it's frustrating, and it's not just the media. It's influencers. I'm sorry to say, but any person,
you're right.
Any person who wants to have, I know how to get followers. Seriously, by the way, if somebody's listening to this and they want to get followers, seriously, pick a hot political topic, take an extreme, super extreme side and be super aggressive about it and make that your entire brand and just be angry. And I guarantee you'll have like 500,000 followers. The more you curse and yell at the other side, the more followers you will have, which is not how it should work. But unfortunately, well, exactly. And all of this, the platforms have to function based on fear. They want people to be, oh, are you too heavy? Oh my goodness, you might have 2 extra inches on your belly. Well, guess what? Hey, you better do this fad diet. You know what? Just eat only fat, just lard only. Oh my goodness. Some of the stuff I see on Instagram, please, anybody that's listening to this, speak to a nutritionist, go talk to a pharmacist, an MD, do your own research. Do not follow fad. I don't like anything that has a diet or tells you easy solutions. There are no easy solutions. Everything is not hard. And that is the secret, in my opinion, to life. Everything is easy. And as we've talked about before, it's all based on one factor. There's only one variable: time. If you want to become a master of math, anybody can do it. Doesn't matter what your intellect is. It could be, you would be the the lowest of the low. You could be a snail and have like a 2-second, or whatever. You might take 1,000,000 years to get it, but you will. There's somebody else that's going to be super fast. They might get it faster. There's literally nothing that is difficult, but we are taught to fear everything. We're taught to fear tests, time tests. Oh my goodness, I have to get SATs. I have to get into this college. I have to do this college degree. If I don't get this degree, I won't make this money. If I don't have this house, I won't have this person. If I don't make this much money, I won't have anybody that wants to date me. If I don't have this flashy car. It is all based on, honestly, in my opinion, things that don't matter at all. When I started opening my eyes and realizing that the relationships, the people in your life, knowledge, and by knowledge, I do not mean a piece of paper that says you completed a degree. I mean, you have depth in a subject. You grasp it. It is you breathe it. That is knowledge. All of those things are so much more important than how thin, how tall, how short, the color of your skin.
How
My
beautiful
goodness.
you are. How
The
hot you
most,
are.
yes, it's, and I do want to get into this a little bit, and I know there's going to be some people that are all over the place when you talk about the LGBTQ community and you have transgender people. They're talking about competitions in sports. You have, I just want to be very clear. All of the MDs who say they have the answers about what happens don't, because there haven't been studies. We don't have enough information. I'm sorry. So all of the people who say this is absolutely true or this is absolutely false, they're all lying because no one knows. What I do know is that when it comes to competition, or when it comes to, a transgender person being just in existence, there is fear of, we've dealt with this in the past with discrimination. We still deal with it. Somebody has darker skin. Oh my goodness, we have to be scared of them. I am a white male and I have the privilege of being able to actually talk about this without understanding any of it. I want to make that clear. I don't get what it's like, and I don't ever want to understand what it's like to be feared just because I literally have darker skin. So the fact that that's an issue tells us how far behind we should really be for evolution of just human minds. And the reason I bring the transgender issue up is, you look at especially in sports, they're talking about a transgender guy competing in females, and there's just absolute fear because it's totally unknown. Well, there's doctors that say, oh, went through puberty male, has a bigger lung capacity, has, stronger bones. Well, what if they're on anti-testosterone medication? If you have testosterone blockers, you have some severe competitive disadvantages. Now, again, we don't know the answers to any of this stuff, but no one wants to ask. They just take a stance because that's what sells. Fear sells. They take a stance. They say, oh, this is absolute evil. This is absolute gold. I don't even understand it myself. What I do understand is that I have no clue. I do understand there are important variables to take into account. And there was Brittany Griner, who was speaking about it's bad. She doesn't care if a male is competing, or a former male who is now transgender and transformed. I apologize if I'm using the wrong language. Is now competing in the female. She wants that. Now, I get that viewpoint because I'm a competitor. I want to compete against the best of the best of the best. I don't care. Why would you? If you're a competitor, now people watching the sports don't want to have to do it. All of this comes back to the same issue. I don't want to get political. I don't really care. But what I do know is that all of this stuff and the tension that's building around it is all about fear. It doesn't matter whether it's mental health, whether it's sexual preference, whether it's religious preference, whether it's political preference, all of it is fear. And all I see is it being pushed. You need this medication because you're going to die from this 7,000 different things. So, oh, and this medication. You and I were talking about this the other night. Every commercial is like a medication, right?
Yeah, for sure. It is now.
And so you can see what sells is fear.
Yep.
And everybody who's scared, and the more scared you are, you're buying into that fear. And unfortunately, that fear kind of is not just encapsulated in just the media or mental health. It is in every facet of my life that I can see, whether it's my credit cards, whether it's my phone, whether it's the door being locked, a Ring camera, being watched on TV, driving your car. I mean, it's everywhere. And for people, and we're surprised that people are having outbursts. We're surprised that people are breaking. I mean, it's why I wanted to do this show. And I'm tired of being fearful, like you had said, being able to people need to have the ability to live life and live in a happy way. I mean, for the people that do struggle with fear, like I do all of the time, it's nice if you have someone in your life that, helps you kind of realize, get out, go do something. And even if you have to make a spin wheel, once a month, spin it and do something random, go out, do something, or, it's nice if you have a friend. We don't all have that luxury. So there are times where I've had to just, I need to go do something different. And when you live with everything being scary, it's frustrating. And it's not something that I've enjoyed.
That's a terrible way.
Do you have some suggestions of some things that people could do as well?
Well, the stuff that I talked about before, my suggestions, trying to go into your fear, challenge yourself a little bit, look at failure, for example, at a particular thing as an opportunity to learn from it. Don't see failure as more evidence that you're a horrible loser. See it as an opportunity to make your game better. And don't overreact to the news. Go on a diet, do a news diet. Stay away from it sometimes, or you will get destroyed. And that's what feeds their profit. So be smarter than the media, be smarter than the culture, and seek out experiences that will teach you stuff. Be looking at effort and trying to be better, and not to avoid stuff because you might fail. That's a form of perfectionism, which can be crippling as well.
Oh, that's good advice. I mean, I know for me, there's so many reasons why I struggle with fear. And as we've talked about before, some of our anxiety is wrapped to our perception of time. And one of the things I've been doing is literally blinking. So if you're feeling like totally overwhelmed, anxious, and the whole world is falling apart, find a music that you like, maybe like, I would say a slow beat, like around 30 beats per minute. And just every time that snap comes around, just blink your eyes. It's that simple. And as you're doing the breathing, so as Jeffrey has mentioned in the past, breathing in for like, say, 4 seconds, and then breathing out for 8. So double, or breathing in for 3, breathe out for 6. You can do that while you're blinking. It's amazingly effective. And We have talked about this in previous episodes about our critical flicker frequency or fusion frequency, and about time and anxiety. So take a look. That has helped me tremendously. The other things that have honestly helped me was understanding that it's when you live every day scared, and then you still wake up, you show up, you go deliver your message, you do your work. That's brave. And there are so many eloquent messages and memes out there and other stuff that say the same thing. But if you're out there and you're scared, and you're scared about everything from finances to the future, you're just like everyone else. Don't feel like you're alone. That's literally part of what is selling right now. So just be aware of that, and breathe. Listen to some of our other podcasts. We did one on being calm, the power of calm. It's so important. I'll leave it there. Jeffrey, do you have anything to add?
No, I think we did a good job.
Okay. We'll leave it there. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We deeply appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, share with people you feel this will help. We wish everybody a beautiful week. We'll be back soon. Have a great day. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much for listening to Chaos2Cured podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with everyone you know. And definitely like, follow, and subscribe. Certainly leave a comment if you'd like. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about the next time. Also, in our show notes, there should be direct links where you can follow us on our social media, as well as reach out to us directly. Thanks again, and have a great day. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on Chaos2Cured podcast are the speaker's own. All discussion is based on our own experiences. We do not and cannot guarantee the accuracy or completeness of any information. Chaos2Cured podcast cannot give medical or health advice. All discussion is based upon our personal experiences and meant for general and educational purposes. This podcast is not a substitute for professional help or for diagnostic purposes for yourself or another. Chaos2Cured podcast always encourages you to consult an appropriate professional.